Opunso, Mr. Oko, Dr. Femi, Dr. Solomon, and Mr. Sunday. Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Welcome.
Good evening.
Good evening to you, sir. Yeah, good evening, everyone, and welcome. We'll start immediately, and we'll be using the PyCharm in the class, and let's see how we can actually make it work and see how we can actually try to get to understand the basic concept of object-oriented programming. What is it all about? How is it done? How can we try to understand it in the way we can actually find a way to understand? I'm going to start it from the simplest way we can actually get it. Please, if you do not understand anything right from the beginning, it will affect you in the long run. So if you have any questions, if you have any doubts at any point, please just mute yourself and ask your question, because if you miss it at this step, you might not get it the whole of everything. So it's very important that you actually get it done. That's why I was really shouting that people should join in tonight's class, because it's something that if you're not in the class, you might have issues with it. So, but nevertheless, I believe some people can actually get it. Object-oriented program is what many programmers try to struggle, and sometimes it could actually be very challenging as well. Okay, so I'll be sharing my screen shortly. Let me just try and load the PyCharm. I just got home, so not really step by just let me put on the PyCharm, and it's always advisable that you code along with us, so that you actually find a way to understand what you are doing. So if you make mistakes, when you make the mistakes, you also see it as well and try to change it as well for yourself. So I'll try to create a new window. I'm trying to create a new project. So let me try and create a new project right now. Let me name it. Okay. So I'll still share my screen. I believe you guys should actually have a practical understanding of what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to get set for the. Okay, so let me share my screen. Who turn off my camera, please? So I'm begging you people. Please, who is turning on my camera? Please, I'm begging you people. I'm very sure that please mute yourself wherever you are. Okay. I don't know what's going on, but I think my camera at some point was on. But nevertheless, we are here. Okay, so I don't know, it was my own mistake. Okay, so we're going to look at, guys, the concept of object-oriented programming. And I'm very sure that for you to be in this particular stage, it means that you've been able to scale through with all those difficult tasks and actually have this kind of assurance that there's no basic kind of project that if you look at it, you will not have at least 80% understanding of that particular code, as far as they are not applying it to maybe that they want to kind of like maybe build games, or they want to go into automation and all those things. So I believe you have a practical basic understanding of at least 80% plus of what Python programming has done, except if you are not constantly coding with it. But I believe the exercises we normally do are going to also helps a lot. And in this concept, there'll be a lot of quizzes as well. I'll try to give you quizzes and try to see if you actually have an understanding of what is going on. So let's go straight to what is object-oriented programming. Someone will ask you, what is object-oriented programming? So I used to see object-oriented programming as trying to create objects as a whole, and it's just like a normal kind of person. Like you just see it as a normal human being, or a kind of like a particular kind of object. You're trying to create a particular kind of object. So there's certain concept that comes into that kind of object itself. When you look at the object, you can see, maybe for example, I'm looking at my lamp right now. It should have a kind of like a my hand fan here. It should have certain buttons. It should have a particular kind of orientation, maybe kind of shape. And yeah, all those things are what we call, they try to like try to see the attributes that comes to a particular object. For example, you have your television. You know that it should have a screen, it should have a certain button, it should have a cable, and all those things. So these are objects also in programming. They are trying to say, okay, we are trying to create a particular thing, and I'm very sure you did a practical example when it comes to turtle. Turtle is also trying. There was a time I told you that I'm going to show you. I'm going to say, okay, you are actually creating an object of that particular kind of class. Okay, you are instantiating a particular kind of thing. So that is what is going to happen right now. So it's a concept of programming that has to do with creating objects in your what in your what they call it, in your codes, trying to create objects so that you'll be using it for a particular kind of function. For example, Python objects always have, I told you, always have attributes. Those are the features that comes in a particular object. Sometimes you'll be like, how does it relate to programming? You're going to see it as well. You're going to see it practically. And you can also check on Google and say, okay, what is object-oriented programming as well, OOP. So in Python objects, we have attributes. When I told you that these are the features, we also have behaviors when it comes to how a particular object is it supposed to behave. For example, a fan, you know, it's supposed to move in a rotational kind of movement. Maybe a particular kind of bird is supposed to fly, or is supposed to have a particular kind of colors. Or there are some birds that can actually kind of fly, because that can actually kind of fly, and there's some that can actually do what swim. So these are the behaviors that actually contains in that particular kind of object. So attributes are more of like the features, okay, the things that it has. Then the behaviors are actually what the things that it can actually do. So these are things you should also look at in terms of object-oriented programming. When you're building your games, when you try to get advanced, you see when they use take tend to use the object itself, you see them a particular kind of code behaving in a certain kind of way. So that's object-oriented programming. You instantiate it and you tend to understand, you tend to use it for a particular kind of example. So what are the why do we use why do we tend to use OOP? We want to use it to prevent code repetition. By the time you want a particular thing to be called upon, you just bring it on, and it actually makes a whole lot of sense for you. Instead of going to code again and again, you try to just bring it out, and it helps a lot. And it also helps in the concept of dry. It's called dry. Do not repeat yourself. Do not repeat yourself. It's called dry. DRY. Do not repeat yourself. You don't have to repeat yourself again and again. So someone is actually saying, okay, you need to bring out this code again and again. So we'll be using more functions. So see object-oriented programming as functions inside what function. There are lots of functions that you are going to bring out inside of it. A lot of functions will be there in object-oriented programming, and all these functions will be inside a particular kind of container known as class. So you're going to see a practical example as well. For example, why we ask me, what do you understand by class? So I tend to define class as a blueprint. Class is a blueprint for creating objects. So you need to you're bringing this class and you're bringing out different functions inside of it. So it's more of like a blueprint that you use to create certain objects. It is like a template too for creating objects. So you use it to create objects as well. It tells how the objects are going to look like. You're going to use that particular class to know how a particular object is going to look like. For example, A house is an object. I made mention of certain examples. A house is an object. The architectural drawing in that house is the class. So that's what I'm trying to like look at my notes right now. So a house is an object right now. You have created that it's an object in itself. But for you to look at the blueprint of that particular house that you have built, you need the class itself that has different functions inside of it, and different when it comes to function. Look at different methods, different attributes, different behaviors inside that particular class that actually makes up what the house itself. So that's what object-oriented programming looks like and how it's supposed to be like. So in this particular concept, I was trying to use, I might decide to use a particular, let's say, particular animal that we are very familiar with. I think penguin. I don't know as who knows the bird penguin. I'm very sure you know what penguin is. What penguins are, they are more like a bird as well, mostly found in the cold regions of the world, and it has its own season of coming out, and I think something like that, if I can actually remember. So I'm going to share my screen as well, and I'll show you a practical example of how we can start an object-oriented course with class. So let me just give you, I will share my screen shortly. So I go to my, yes, okay. I've loaded the, okay. I think we'll try to manage this. Let me try and see if I can actually make it bigger enough. Can you see my screen? Is it clear enough? See, guys, is it clear enough? Hello, is my screen clear enough? Is it clear?
I can see your screen for my side. I think it's my network.
It's not.
It's not clear.
No.
Oh. Well, let me type something first. Let me just type something if we can see it. Let me type something. Class. Oh, this. I don't know. Class. Can you see it? Class.
It's small.
Let me. It's very small, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I can see.
A lot of some persons are saying they can see, some persons are saying they cannot see. So let me try, and there's no way we have to put it in the presentation mode. I hope we'll be able to get to understand that appearance, enter presentation mode.
Better.
Okay, so let's see how we can actually manage this. So let's look at let's look at certain things right now. Let me use penguin for example. I told you about penguin, or should we use dog? Anything that is okay. Let's try and use penguin for now. So I think this is by one of my mentors kind of way of doing things. So class, we're trying to create a class now, and you can see I'm calling the name class. It's pre-installed in Python. So class, and I use penguin. Please take notes of the capital letter I'm using. So penguin, and I can decide to put a colon because that's how it is. And I'm going to create a class, and that class I'm going to use is what the penguin itself. So since I don't want it to do anything, I can decide to just say pass. I'll decide to say pass. Why is this so? Because I don't want it to do anything. So I just started the object-oriented programming kind of concept right now. So we use class keyword to create a class. You can see there was a class keyword I used there. The name of our class here is penguin right now. The name of our class here is what? Penguin. So the an object is what? An object is an instance of that particular what? Class. You're going to see that itself. So for me to create an object inside this particular class, I have to know what is called instantiation, which is what we call instantiate. It's a concept in object-oriented programming known as what? Instantiating. That means for you to instantiate an object, it means you're creating an object from classes. Okay, so what we want to do right now is to try to create an object inside this particular class called penguin. So we create the object, and we also do what we call it. We call from the word classes. So let's give a practical example. How can we create an object? Okay. So in this particular object we want to create the penguin object itself by instantiating it. So that's what instantiating means. Instantiate, instantiate. So we try to do what? Okay, we will say, okay, let's say pen equals to. I remember when we were doing this in total equals. I think that we're trying to instantiate a particular class. So, and we are going to call the name. You can see there are options here. You can just press tab. And how do you instantiate a class? Open and close brackets. So by the time you make this possible, originally right now you have instantiated this particular class, and you can actually use it in the future. You're going to see how we use it in the future. So when we're trying to, that's for the instantiating of the class. There are what we call attributes, okay? There are what we call attributes. What I told you when I was trying to explain object-oriented programming, when it comes to a certain kind of object, it has its own attributes, how it's supposed to behave. Sorry, how attribute means how it's supposed to, the features it has. What are the things, if you look at a penguin, what are the main things you know that a penguin should actually have? Like, all if general, like there are certain things a penguin should have. So what it is known as attributes. These are attributes. And when I talk about attributes, I'm talking about there are different types of attributes. There are certain things, there are attributes inside that is what we call the class attributes. So these are attributes that are more of like a generic kind of features a particular object has. All the penguins in this world must have that particular kind of attributes. So class attribute, these attributes are the attribute that all the penguins have. Example, their scientific family, for example. Okay, let's look at the scientific family of penguin here. The scientific family of penguin. Those of you that are into biology, that did biology in school back then, the family that it belongs, that means it's common to all of them. All the penguins belong to a particular kind of family, but the species might be kind of different, but all of them belong to a particular family. So that is a class attribute. What is common to all the penguins? So that is the class attribute itself. So I can decide to just maybe I'll just search online and see the family in which the penguin belongs to. Someone should just search it online and just tell me now the family of penguins. Just send me. I mean, you can check on Wikipedia. Just send. Once you see the family, just copy it and post it in the chat box. I'll come to check it so that we can use it in the long run as well in this class, just to make sure that remember I'm trying to explain it from the very beginning, how I'm explaining the way if I'm explaining to anybody at all, even though the person is not a programmer as well. So just check the family of penguin for me, and the name is you should have this about all these their names. So just bring it so that we use it in the course tonight. So another attribute, I tell you there are two types of attribute. The first one is the class attribute. That's the one that is common to all of them. The other one is known as the instance attribute. Okay, the instance attribute has to do with is the attribute which are special to each individual penguins. Those things that are the instance attributes are the ones that are actually just for this particular, maybe a particular set of penguins are actually maybe has a particular kind of color, or some of them have a particular kind of height, and some of them have a particular kind of weight. For example, a human being, for example, we belong to, all of us are human beings, but there are some that are actually the instance of a particular human being are actually we are all human beings. But that one is for, I can say we are all human beings, we belong to a particular family. I don't know all those botanical kind of classification, how they used to do that. But when it comes to instance now, each of us have our own different how our own different features. For example, someone could actually be short, could actually be slim, but not all of them, not all human beings are at all. Not all human beings are short. So that's how object instance attributes are actually referred to as. So there are special kind of features or attributes in which a particular kind of object actually does what has. So that's the whole concept of instance attribute. And when we look at another concept known as methods, we're going to look at another concept known as methods. So methods, please let me check is there anybody that has found out the class, okay, the family in which it belongs, okay? Okay, fantastic. This is amazing, fantastic. This is, please, if you can pronounce it for me, it will make sense. Is it Phenicide? Okay. It's okay. I'm going to use it. Let me just copy it right now. I'll use it very soon. So this is a family that is. Thank you, Mr. Sunday. Thank you, everyone, for dropping the answer here. Okay. So this is a family that belongs to the penguins. Fantastic. We're going to use that as well. And you could actually share the link, the Wikipedia link as well. We'll also be needing it as well. So I'll explain a concept right now known as the method itself. The method. So method is more of like methods are like functions. Methods are functions defined in a class. You can see a lot of them. That's the behavior. Not like the methods are like the behavior that are actually what defined in a class. For example, a penguin can definitely swim. So these are behaviors of penguins. There are some penguins that actually swim. There are some that can fly. There are some birds that can actually fly. So those are kind of what behaviors that you're actually going to see. And in those behaviors are always known as what methods in object-oriented programming. We are going to see practically, and let's begin. Let's see how we can actually do this for a practical example for you to see. So let me start with the class attribute in which I explained the other time. So I can decide to uncomment these ones out, but let's just use it for now, or I can decide to just control /. So let's do as if you're starting all over again. Enter, and let's create a class penguin. So class penguin. So make sure it's always a capital letter. It always starts with a capital letter. So penguin, and we put it in a colon and we press enter. Now the first thing we want to do is now we have created a class. Now the first thing is now we want to create attributes to this particular class. The first one is going to be the class attribute. So I can decide to comment it and say class, and decide to say class attributes. Okay, so it's what we're going to use the class attribute. I told you that is common to all of them, and which you have searched it out already. The class attribute we want to use right now is, please, something is definitely wrong. Everything should be in the particular kind of indentation. Is what it wants to misbehave this night. So there's supposed to be an indentation after this, so we'll know that it's inside that particular class. So you can see, I don't know why it's giving me showing something like an error. Okay, so let's just use this is a class attribute. So let me, I don't know, it's still this pie chart, man. Okay, so the first thing is a class attribute that is common to all of them. So I'm going to just name it as family equals to let me just let me press that thing we did here. Okay, so that's a family. That is a class attribute in which that is common to all the penguins. And the next thing we're going to do is to create an instance attribute. Now, an instance attribute, those are the different things that are only personal to that particular specific penguins. Not all of them will have these different, they'll have different things. So it's called the instance attribute. So in this one is quite different, and we use what we call the init function. We're going to use the init kind of keyword, and it's going to be very, very just look at what I want to do now. So def, and you do what? Double underscore, init. So you can see it's already showing you something like that. So but I want to type it out so that you'll be able to see. And another double underscore. So you are trying to create an instance word attribute right now that is specific to certain penguins. So you do that. This is double underscore. I remember when I was doing something like this. What is double underscore here? Double underscore means something in Python. Remember when I remember we did this before now. What is double underscore? Who can still remember that thing? There's something I remember when I mentioned double underscore that time. Okay, all right. Thank you, Mr. Sunday. I'll check it out as well. So what is double underscore? I remember I said something like that in Python. One time we were doing functions, when we started function. It's always very important. It's called Mr. Sunday. What? No, double underscore. Like, what does it mean? What does that double underscore mean?
It's like to initiate something. I don't know. Like to.
Yeah, there's a name they call it. It's called Donda. I don't know if you remember Donda.
Yes.
Donda. So it's called Donda, and that's when you say Donda, it means it's double underscore. So just take note of that. It's always very important as well. So double underscore init double underscore. So we now said, okay, self. You can see even immediately I put in my bracket, it automatically puts itself as self, meaning that this particular attribute I'm creating is just specific for the individual penguins. Okay, so command, we need the name. Everybody has different names. Name, and we have another one, age. Okay, another one is what we could use auxiliary word. We could use what color as well. So these are certain attributes in which a particular kind of word, an instance attribute will actually what possess. Please take note of the next thing. You can see it comes out automatically on its own, but always take note that it has all these things that you have. So click enter, and you start creating the instances by yourself. You have brought it out in your parameters, it's there, but you need to bring them out carefully one after the other. So take note of how I do it. Self dot name, okay, equals to what? Name, okay. The next one is what? Self dot age equals to what? Age. Sorry, equals to what? Age. Another one is what? Self dot color. Sorry. Dot what? Color equals to what? Color. Equals to what? Color. So these are the what? These are how we can actually what? Create what? Instance what? Attributes. Okay. So we need to add more things to it. There is no problem. You can add it to it by yourself. You feel that there are certain attributes you should actually add. So that self means that the current object that is being what created, the current object that is what being what created. So anytime we need it, we are going to do what? Call it out in the what? When you are trying to do what? Instantiate. When you are trying to create, that means this particular self is actually telling you, okay, this particular thing, anytime I want to instantiate an object, I believe that it should have name, it should have age, and it should have color as well. So that's the concept that is coming out now. So now the next thing we want to do is now, let's try and create two penguin objects. Let's create objects now, right now. Let's create an object. When I mean creating an object, it means that I want to instantiate a particular word object. So how can we do that? So let's create an object right now. So I backspace, and you can see, and it's not supposed to be under the div. I still need to backspace it and leave it out of the word, out of this particular class block. So I'm going to first of all look at, so I'm going to go back to Mr. Sunday's link and check different objects I can create. I can decide to create a different kind of penguins, what they call it, different types of penguins. So let me check the link is sent, if it's actually what, there are different types of penguins I want to create as objects. So let's check from this link. Okay, scientific classification. There are lots of them. So you can see there are different types of penguins right now. Okay, fantastic. So you can see. Let me just go to. Let me go to Wikipedia. Wikipedia will give me so many things. So penguins. Okay, penguins. Wikipedia. So let me just check Wikipedia and see. They are going to bring in certain classifications and a lot of them that actually exist. So you can see a lot of them actually. We have the species. I'm looking at the species right now. We have the king penguins. We have the we also have the yellow-eyed penguins and all of them here. You can see there are lots of them here, different with different colors. So let me choose the king and the yellow-eyed for now. You can see the different species that are actually living here. So I can go back to my code and check it out by myself. So let's create two penguin objects. The first one, let's use the king. And by the time we use this king, let's instantiate it now as we did the first time. So how do we instantiate? We call out the class name itself. So the class name here is penguin. It's capital. You can see it comes out on its own, penguin. And the next thing we want to do is now, the first thing anything that we put in here is going to be the name. Anything that we put in here is going to be the name because we started with name, age, and color. So the next thing we're going to be, the first thing we want to look at is the king penguin, right? So we just say king penguin. So penguin is this. That's the first this thing we are trying to, the first attribute, the instance attribute we are using, comma, age. So let's just say let's just use 3, maybe 3. After that, and please guys take note, there's a mistake somewhere. What do you think? I've made a mistake here. I made a mistake somewhere. What's the mistake? Please, I made a mistake somewhere. There is a mistake somewhere.
I think the comma you are putting it.
Fantastic.
The quotes
Fantastic.
inside that.
So I need to be out so that so 3, we use 3 comma, then the color we want to use, we want to use maybe green or blue. Let me even check. Should we check the let me just use, hey, guys, any color will do. I beg, let's use any color. Let's use blue. Okay, blue is always royalty, I remember. So if blue means like king, so let's continue. So you can see that's the first object that we have created right now. We have instantiated an object. Okay, so now right now the next thing we want to do, maybe let's bring another kind of species of penguin. So you can see here, let's use the, which one did we use? Let's check it out. Which one did we use again? Let's see another one. Okay, let's use emperor penguin now. Let's use emperor penguin. Let me click and look at how they look like. Okay, let's just use emperor penguin. Okay, just copy and I don't have time to type all these things. Okay, so let's go there. Let's see how we make it happen. So just Control V, and there will be an error because there's not supposed to be space in a variable. So I put an underscore. So definitely equals to what? You call out the name of the class in which you're building. So tab, and you put in emperor. Could have even given it emperor. But let me give it emperor only. Okay. And I like using small letters when I'm trying to name my own system. Emperor. So so let me put the name here, emperor penguin. Let's say emperor sometimes used to be very old. So let me see 7, comma, and what's let's just use any color, please. We could use orange. Let's use orange. So you can see here. So now we have created what? The instance of what? We have created the instance of our what? Our particular word of our class object, right? Of our class right now by using what? The instances here. the instance attribute here. You can see the self.name, the age, and the color itself. So if you want to print this out, you can actually do that and it will work for us. So we can actually say, okay, we're actually going to say, okay, we're going to bring out a particular, maybe for example, we want to just print the name of this particular penguin and also the class attribute. We want to print the name of the name of the penguin and also the class attribute, which is the Spencinidae. Okay, so we're going to use that. We're going to see how we can print it directly without just typing it out inside our what, like going in the inside itself. So let's see how that is possible. So I click enter. I can decide to click enter again. Say to go, there should be more space. So what do I do right now? I decide to say, okay, print. We want to print the class attributes. Okay, we print the class attributes and we also involve the instance attribute as well. So let's print. Okay, let me use. I think I'll use the format string. So not the F string. Let me just use the format. So print. Print. Okay, let's say scientific family. So let's use scientific family of, remember we used to do format, so I'm going to put in a curly bracket and I decide to put 0 and curly bracket again, is I'm going to put curly bracket and I decide to put 1 so that we reference it again, is definitely, by the time I do this, I decide to leave the quote and put dots. Remember we did this before, format. By the time we use format, we now said, okay, now we now bring in the what, we now call out the first one we want to know is the scientific family of, that means the scientific family of what? Of the instance. We are looking at the one that we created. For example, we read the one of the king right now. So we're going to call out what? King. What? King what? King dot name. So king dot what? Name. Want the name. Okay. Want the name. After the name, we need the what? The scientific family of this, of king dot name, is, the next thing we're going to bring in is the what, is this family. So how do we get it out? So we do what, comma, definitely we get a comma and say, okay, king, please pay attention, dot, underscore, class, underscore, dot what, family. Okay, so definitely we're gonna, okay, the bracket is okay for us. So if we decide to print this out right now, you can see that something is going to be what is going to happen when it comes to our concept of OOP. So you have to pay attention to what happens here. Everything that we do here is actually very, very important. So you can see how I want to bring this particular attributes out, how to actually call them out. It's very important you take this format as well. The right way, most especially this particular, and this is always the best way to always make it out. But there are people that are brought out in, they can do it another way, but this is always the best possible way to do it. So let's try and print this out and let's see what it will give us. I don't know, this. So we run this. So you can see it comes out as scientific family of king penguins. Please take note, we did not add king penguin here. It actually went into this particular object and brought it out and said, okay, the scientific what? The scientific family of king penguin is what? The Vesnicidae. So these are the things you can see. I called it out here like this, and it actually worked for me exactly as I wanted. So these are ways we can actually make things work for us, and these are ways you can actually see how we can actually call them out from their words, their different word class attributes and what the instance word attributes. So I don't know if you have any questions right now. If you have any questions, please let me know if you have any questions, because if you miss anything, it's going to cause you a lot of wahala. Another thing I'm going to also say is that for you to call out the class attribute, you can see before I called out this particular class attribute, I had to put in this dot underscore underscore class underscore underscore dot, and I reference it how I put this particular the name of my class attribute, which was family, and it brought it out for me. So you can see it here, a practical example here. And the format dot name, the format, okay, king dot name, okay, the king. Where did I get the king? See, when I instantiated my object king. So when I instantiated my client, I said, okay, the name of my this thing is king, but I just want the name, okay, the name, okay. So it's going to go into this object. I'm bringing this first object because the first thing we did here was name, and it brought out. If you had brought king dot age, you could have brought in 3, okay, and you could have done the same thing. So at this particular point, I would like to say, okay, if there are any questions, okay, Mr. Sunday.
Okay, thank you. Please, can you go back to the code?
Okay, I'm here.
Yes, that initiates this, what's it called? Self. Is it compulsory that we must put that self?
But it is very important. If that's why it's even, I did not even put it myself. It came out on a default. It's very important that you put the self. It's part of the code itself. It's trying to tell you that yes, it's a current object that is being created. So that when you're instantiating this particular object, it will take in this name, age, and color. But there are certain things that you sometimes when you get advanced, you may not really necessarily put it as well, but you just take it as a default. Okay, this is more of like a default kind of, so sometimes you can decide to also remove it as well. But that's something I don't really like doing. I like just doing it this way. It makes sense to me this way, so that I know what I'm actually creating. It. This is also called a constructor. Okay, we'll get there in the next class. We'll tell you what it is. Okay. So yes, Mr. Sunday.
Okay, but what if I want to initiate another object inside the same class? Is it possible?
Yes, you can decide to create other objects inside that particular kind of class. Yes, it's still you can bring in as many as you can.
Okay.
You can create. You can instantiate another one. You can instantiate other ones. You bring it out all anyhow you want to do it. You can do it.
Okay, sorry. The last question.
Okay,
for
sir.
that, what's it called? When you use the print statement.
Okay, sir.
That what's it called? Go down. That king dot the Donda class dot family. What if we use comma family there? Won't it work?
Comma family. Have you tried it out? It will definitely. You have to call the name of the name of the object in which you instantiate it. So if you want to run it, instead of putting all this long thing, you can just say king.family. It will still do the same thing for you. But I just want to do this, and this is the perfect way of making things work for you. You have to call out the name of the object in which you are instantiated. For example, with king, so that it will tell you, okay, it was king that I put it as an object. Okay, I've created an object right now. I need to call out the details of that particular object.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? Please, any other questions? If there are no other questions, we'll have to call it a night today, right now. So we're taking it step by step. On Wednesday, we'll have another class and we'll do more. And if you do not understand anything right now, please ask me, because if you miss this thing, it's going to get lost forever, because it's complicated. I'm telling you, object-oriented programming is complicated. When you go into inheritance, encapsulation, polymorphism, and this thing, it's something that you have to start now to understand. If you understand, please If you do not, please ask questions right now. Otherwise, we'll end the class. Okay, I believe everybody's good. Okay, thank you very much, guys, for joining into a nice class. Okay, Mr. Cole.
Okay, Mr. Edmund, I want to ask if what if you want to define another function under the class for something else? Probably
Yes, you can.
another type of. Okay.
They are called methods. Those ones are called methods. We are
Okay.
going to we call different functions inside of it. Those ones are called methods. It's possible. We are still doing small. We are taking step by step.
Okay.
All right. All right. If there are no questions, thank you very much for joining in and have a fantastic evening. Please try not to miss any class on object-oriented programming. Please, it's something that even though you check YouTube, it will be very difficult for you to get it. It's very difficult for you to understand it. Sometimes people will just try to rush and do things, but I struggled for some time. It gave me issues, but I had to find out someone that could actually do it for me better, and I could actually understand it to a certain level as well. Okay, thank you very much and have a fantastic